Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's look at the non-farm payrolls. If you're watching the recorded version of this on our YouTube page, it was held live during September's announcement of the payrolls, 7th of September. So it's 1:15 now in the UK, and we're going to just have a quick look at what the market is expecting. We'll have a look how markets are trading ahead of this, and then we'll wait for the announcement to come out at 1:30 and see how the markets react. Let me just put the risk warming up when I'm talking away. I'm on the last slide. This is not a good start. There we go. So this announcement comes out every month. It's maybe diminished a little bit in recent months in terms of the impact it has on markets, because there's so much other stuff going on, politically, things like Brexit and the trade war, potential trade wars, all that sort of stuff has maybe overshadowed the impact of this one event. But we can normally see some short-term volatility off the back of it. And we have had maybe not that quiet a morning. We've seen a bit of a move for the pound. We'll take a look at that in a minute. But it tends to go fairly quiet markets ahead of the number when it gets released at 1:30, and it's all about expectations. It's all about what's the market expecting from the payrolls number and what actually comes in. But let's just do a quick rundown through what it is. So it's a major monthly economic release, definitely one of the big ones, usually announced on the first Friday of the month. But if the previous month has been a short one, it'll sometimes get slipped to the second Friday. Unemployment data, US unemployment data, it is often used as a barometer for the health or otherwise of the US economy. And it impacts, all sorts of markets. Everything normally moves on the payroll. So we have stock markets, clearly in the US, stock markets don't officially open till 2:30 UK time, but there's an out-of-hour market, so we'll usually see the likes of the S&P and the Dow, then of course the DAX in Europe moving off the back of it. Currencies will move as well, because clearly it has an implication for the US dollar, what's going on with the US economy. Price of oil as well, based on how well the economy's doing. Oil's been an interesting one this week anyway. We'll take a look at that one in a bit more detail. And as I say, it's not so much about the absolute number, it's about how different or not that number is compared to what the market's expecting. And today, the expectations are for around about 190,000 jobs to have been added to the US economy in August. Okay, so that's the number to watch out for when it gets released in about 12 minutes time. Okay, what does it look like? Just to have a look at historically how we've been over the last 12 months or so. So today the expectation is for 190, which is pretty much not far off the median payroll number over the last 12 months or so. Last time round, 157 jobs added in July. We'll see what today's number looks like. But let's get in and have a quick look at the markets and maybe some of the stuff to watch out for. Let me just bring up our trading platform. I have, as usual, got too many screens open. Just bear with me a second, and we'll bring up the platform and take a look. There we go. Okay. Let's look quickly at something that's been moving today. We'll do sort of pound US dollar, because we have seen something of a move in that this morning. Again, on Brexit chatter. It was the move. We've seen a move above 130 for pound US dollar this morning. And this is, of course, on the top of a move earlier this week. This sharp move here we go, on Wednesday of this week. And this was on talk that Germany and the UK were making some progress when it came to Brexit talks. It ended up, that rumour later on in the day ended up being denied by both sides, but the pound has still carried on trading up above 129. And I think there's been some talk from Michel Barnier this morning that's lifted the market up above 130. So if we're looking at major FX pairs, the pound has been incredibly volatile lately anyway, mainly because of the lack of progress in Brexit discussions. So I think that's always one to watch when the payrolls come out, because clearly the US dollar component there we can normally see some moves off the back of that. But here's the bigger picture view for the pound. So since back in April, when it was up at 143, 144, we traded briefly below 127. It has in recent weeks been trying to stage some sort of a recovery. Be interesting to see how it goes today. I sort of tend to think that maybe because we have this week seen some positive sentiment for the pound, if we don't get too much of a shock from today's number, so that plus 190-ish expected, maybe we'll see something of a boost for the pound as the day goes on. Maybe not as drastic as the one we've seen this morning, but let's see how that comes out. I mean, we're still in this downtrend for the pound, despite the 300 points or so that's been gained in the last 2 to 3 weeks. I think we've still got some levels that could be a real problem for the pound, and I think we still probably need to crack 131 properly to shake off this downtrend. But let's see what happens today with these numbers. Another market, this is one of the more popular markets with our clients. If we look at stock market indices, then we'll take a look at some of the US markets ahead of the announcement. But the DAX, so the German 30, it's been quite an odd one, this, because in recent weeks, we've seen the likes of the S&P 500, so the broader US stock market index, set fresh all-time highs. But this is a daily chart that we're looking at here of the DAX, and it really has done its own thing over the last couple of weeks. Just yesterday, it moved to its worst levels in 5 months, so back to levels not seen since the lows at beginning of April. And it broke through this old sort of 12,000, 12,100 support. So it's opened up the lows for the year down at 11.7. So the DAX has been really weak just over the last 7 days or so. If we go back to the end of August, when it was trading, let me just bring my chart down a bit, trading up around about 12.6. The market's currently at 11,900 as we're doing this, so it's lost something like 700 points in for the month so far, and it's been a pretty clear downtrend. Let's see what comes out of these payrolls. Is it enough to lift stock markets, and do we see the DAX get a bit of a boost? I think the other market that has been interesting this week has been the price of oil. Let me just again have a look at a daily chart here, because it did earlier on in the week, on when was it, Tuesday, push out to $71 a barrel. So it pushed out to its best levels since the beginning of July. So we were on a 6 or 7 week high, but it reversed really sharply. Let's just flip this over. Here we go. So here's the move out to those 7 week highs, and it's the reversal. And part of the reason, and maybe a lot of the reason for the last bit of the move up, was the storm that we're going to be. The worry was storms targeting the Gulf of Mexico, and the concern was that it would have an impact on oil exploration and production. And of course, if supply is affected, then normally you'd expect the price to go up. And that's what we saw for oil this week. So trading up to $71. But then as the concerns of that storm faded, we've seen the price come the other way. And so the price has lost $4 since Tuesday of this week. And this will be an interesting one, because you can normally get sort of a half decent move for the price of oil on payrolls. It did slip briefly yesterday below $67 a barrel. It's bounced back now to trade. You can see 67.60. We do have, I think, a bits of support around about 67. So let's see what happens when these numbers come out. Do we get a push down to the lows of the day, then maybe a bounce back, or do we see something of a move back up towards 69? I think it's really hard to trade the payrolls if you're going to trade right as the number comes through, because markets can be a bit like a headless chicken when the numbers come out, and very often the first move is the wrong move. You'll see a knee-jerk reaction where, let's say, the Dow rallies for 20 minutes and then reverses and gives up the gain. So I think they're pretty hard to trade over, and maybe the more sensible approach is to give it half an hour, 45 minutes for things to calm down, for the market and traders to properly digest the news, and see if we get a more sustainable, decent trend into the afternoon. But we'll normally see quite a sharp reaction. Let's take a look at these US stock markets. Let's have a look at the US 30, because again, we haven't seen drastic falls, but we have seen, this week, US stock markets lose a little bit of ground. Nothing too drastic. So here's the Dow. This is usually a good one to watch when the number comes out. So this is the daily chart for the Dow. So we were about a week ago, not a million miles away from those all-time highs on the Dow set at the end of August, early September this year. But the week so far, you can see just how tight those candles have been. In terms of the range on the week, we've seen the market under a little bit of pressure, but nothing that dramatic. We've seen very little in the way of progress for stock markets this week. So let's see how we go when the number comes out. Let's flip this over to a 5-minute chart. So at the moment, with how long have we got? About 3 or 4 minutes until we get the payrolls number. The Dow's trading 25,950. The range has been, it's not been much really at all, has it? We go back to earlier on this morning, and it was up above 26,000. But a fairly quiet session, overnight session, as you'd expect, coming into this payrolls announcement. So I think the 3 markets to watch, the ones that we'll watch here coming into this, the Dow Jones, the US stock market. Clearly, this is the pre-market trade. It's just a 24-hour market. Trading doesn't start officially until 2:30 today. We'll keep an eye on the pound US dollar. What period chart is that on? Let's flip that over to a 5-minute chart. So we'll see the short-term movement there, because the dollar element here clearly would normally have a bit of a reaction to the payrolls. And then finally, we'll keep an eye on the price of oil to see what that's doing. Oil is an interesting one because it has really been under some pressure this week. So let's see what it makes of this number when it comes out. When it comes to getting the number, clearly there are lots of different sources. There are newsfeed, there's our own newsfeed. If you're ever away for this sort of breaking news, Twitter's pretty good. There are lots of news agencies that you can follow on Twitter that will push the numbers out. And of course, the official, the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the US, they have their own Twitter feed and they tweet the number out, normally bang on 1:30 as soon as the announcement is made. So there's lots of places to get this data. But as I say, quite often, the first reaction is the wrong reaction. We'll see a sharp knee-jerk move, and then the market sort of settles down, digests the number a bit better, and we have maybe a more sustainable trend then in the afternoon. So for me, I think unless we're going to have a massive shock here, my expectation would be that maybe we'll see a bit of pound strength, a bit of US dollar weakness, assuming we're not going to have any surprises. If we had a really negative payrolls number, it could suggest, or a lot less than expected, it could suggest that the US economy in the short term at least has maybe not performed as well as the market's expecting. That could reduce the chances of interest rate rises in the future, and that should put some pressure on the US dollar. But very often, again, the initial short-term movements can make not much in the way of sense. So we'll see. I think we've got just over a minute until the number comes out, so you'd expect things to go pretty flat here. So a quick recap of the market. So oil's trading around about 67.60 a barrel. Pound US dollar just above 130, so about 3 or 4 points trading above that 130 level. So it's the highest it's been for this month so far, and it's been lifted twice this week on sort of Brexit discussions. So we'll see what impact that's there. And the Dow is 25,960. So at the moment we've got about 30 seconds until the announcement comes out. And we'll see. And just to recap on what we're expecting about 190,000 jobs to have been added in the US economy. So I'll just keep an eye, just watch this on another screen now and tell you what it is when it comes out. Then we'll have a quick look at how the markets are reacting. So we've got about 10 seconds now. We should play some suspenseful music, really, although it might not be that dramatic. So far, we're not seeing much from the Dow, still trading. It's come in 201,000, I think, is the number. There we go. So 201,000 jobs were added in August. So that suggests pretty positive. Slightly better than expectations. So expectations were plus 190. A bit of Dow weakness. So the Dow is off about 20 points or so. Let's have a look at pound US dollar. That's it's dipped back below 130. So it's moved about 15 points on the announcement. So nothing too dramatic. And the price of oil hasn't really moved at all. So I think again, maybe pound US dollar is the one to watch. And you'll often see this just flipping about, and that's why I think these things are so hard to trade. Because you'll just see it maybe flip from maybe plus 20 to minus 20 once the announcements come out, and while the market sort of diagnoses or analyzes those numbers in a bit more depth. So going into this afternoon, I think that the levels to watch on the pound, we've traded above 130 this morning, being as high as 130.40. So far today. So if we did see some strength this afternoon, 130.40 is an obvious area to watch. But because that number was slightly better than expected, 10, 11,000 jobs more than expected, the unemployment rate in the US holding steady at 3.9%. That's good for the dollar. Traditionally, you'd view that as good for the dollar because it suggests the economy is performing as expected. So it doesn't really suggest that maybe we're going to see any massive change to interest rate policy there. And let's see what happens the rest of the day. Let's take a quick look at the Dow. It's moved maybe 20 points or so. So I think going into the rest of the day, maybe pound US dollar is the one to watch to see how it reacts after this. But at the moment, it's down about 15 points or so. So a fairly undramatic payroll so far. But as I say, you can often the move in the first 15 minutes gets reversed as things start to calm down. We'll start wrapping things up there. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, we do upload various videos throughout the week. There's one going up later today looking at gold and oil, but we look at cryptocurrencies, stock market indices, and FX. So the next video that goes up on Monday, we'll be looking at euro and the pound. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, if you subscribe, you get an automatic notification every time something news goes up. But it's been a bit of a quiet one so far this week. We'll see what the rest of the day brings, but we'll wrap things up there. Thanks for coming along, and we'll do it all again next month.